Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. I am making this video because I want to let you know that I have gone ahead and recorded another what I call a fan commentary track for a film. Just putting on player and then watching it and then just recording my own commentary as I speak out loud about it and just putting it in a sort of audio commentary track. And this is for the 1981 horror film called, it's right here, called Halloween 2. So there we go. So what I did was I talked about this film in another fan commentary track. I will have the full commentary track available for Patreon, for paid Patreon subscribers and friends over at my Patreon channel. So if you want to get the full commentary track, please go to the Patreon page. The link is below. And if you become a paid Patreon subscriber, this will be made available to you. The full commentary track, my fan commentary track for Halloween 2. I will give you a little excerpt here, so you'll get an excerpt after my explanation here. So if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, you can get the full commentary track over my Patreon page as a paid subscriber, just in case you're interested. So I'll give you a little excerpt here in a moment. But yes, so I don't talk about anything that special. I'm not a historian. I'm not a super expert when it comes to the background details of Halloween 2, but I've seen it many times. This is one of my key 1980s VHS rental films. And so many memories associated with it, and so therefore I had a number of things to say from that my own personal vantage point. So that's the basis of the commentary track. Again, I'll give you a free excerpt here in case you're interested, in case you're curious. That'll follow immediately after my comments here. But if you want the full commentary track, check out my Patreon page for the full commentary track, again, for paid Patreon subscribers. So in case you're interested, that is what's available for my Patreon friends. So please, I hope you enjoy it. And it's just in time, I think, for Halloween. Halloween is just around the corner. So just in case you're interested. But anyway, thank you so much, my dear friends. Again, if you're interested in the Patreon page, please check out what I have to offer. I have this. I have other commentary tracks that I've made similarly to this. Made available for my Patreon friends. So there's and some other videos there as well. So please feel free to check out those videos and indeed the full commentary track that I made for Halloween 2 over at the Patreon page. But if you're interested, here's a sample of what I say as part of that commentary track. So here you go. Here's a sample of my fan commentary track for Halloween 2 from the year 1981. So thank you very much and cheers. I hope you enjoy it. See you soon. Bye-bye. Greetings from LA, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this fan commentary track finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. Yes, this is yet another fan commentary track. I am not an expert when it comes to the film that I'm about to speak about today, but I am a fan of this film. So if it's okay with you, won't you join me on a watch or rewatch of this film, whatever the case may be? The film is Halloween 2. This is the work which is from 1981. It is the sequel, the direct sequel to the very famous horror slasher film Halloween. So today I'd like to talk about Halloween 2, the sequel. It's one of my favorite horror films from that era, and indeed from any era. I watched this film when I was, I watched this film so many times I've lost count, since the VHS days and up to the present day. So I'm a fan. So once again, I'm not going to be saying anything about the production history or about the analysis of this work or the like, because I'm not an expert when it comes to this. And I don't have all the details in terms of the precise production history. So this is not one of those kinds of commentary tracks. but rather it's a fan commentary track. So I'm just coming at this purely as a fan of this film, someone who has seen this so many times. So if that's okay with you, my dear friends, let us proceed with the fan commentary track. I have the disc in my player right now. And so it's at time mark 000000, and that's like the one of the codes in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. There are going to be some Star Trek references during this commentary track as a bit of foreshadowing, just for information. But in any event, sorry about that. So the disc is set at 000000 right now. So let's play the film together at the same time. So I'll count down 3, 2, 1, play, and then we'll start the film at the same time. So you all ready with your discs in the machine? All right. I hope you are, because I'm about to count down. 3, 2, 1, play. So we've got the Universal logo coming up. I always loved this version of the Universal logo. This is always really cool with the sort of the gunmetal lettering of Universal. I really like that. And what do we have accompanying us but the Chordettes, Mr. Sandman. So when I saw this film when I was so young, maybe 6 or 7, maybe even younger. VHS days, and as VHS rental. And I was of an age where I didn't know Mr. Sandman. I didn't know the Chordettes. I didn't know this song, but I knew the song from watching Halloween 2. And so now, whenever I hear this song, I cannot help but associate with memories from Halloween 2. I love this film so much. And of course, we've got the exterior of the house, which is Halloween 2 material, but then it cuts into the house, which is now the end catch up from the first film, the earlier film Halloween. So this is a bit of the pre-title sequence, as it were. Again, scenes from the original Halloween. I should point out, too, in terms of the introduction of the music, Halloween was and is very, very famous for so many things, one of which being the iconic theme to Halloween. Da, 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 da. So whenever I could imagine when people came to this film Halloween 2, they were expecting to hear the Halloween theme, da, 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 da. But can you imagine it? The first music they hear when they watch Halloween 2 is not the iconic theme, but Mr. Sandman, which is an interesting choice. And then we go into the synthesized score of Halloween 2 and the elongated dun 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 dun. It's stretched out. It's not quite the theme yet in that staccato rhythm that we're so used to with the John Carpenter theme from the original film, but it's the melody is there. That motif is there, and it's repeated over and over again in this sort of amorphous way, which is really nice touch. Again, it's hinting at that musical score which we are so expecting and so anticipating, and it's going to come up very soon. And we've got of course, the highlights here from the first film, the climax of the first film. Dr. Loomis just arriving just in time to save the day, as it were. But not quite, because the day isn't saved, because as we know, this is more of the night he came home, Halloween 2. And now we cut into shots of the second film. And now pay attention to that, because if you notice, Dr. Loomis just kept on shooting and shooting and shooting until he pulled the trigger and no more bullets left. So he seems to have lost count of how many bullets were in the chamber there. Now that's going to be important, because he's going to lose count of how many bullets he has later on in Halloween 2. So this is a bit of foreshadowing. I don't know if it was meant to be like that or not, but despite the reasoning, I think it's a really cool bit of foreshadowing. No matter what happens, Dr. Loomis always forgets how many bullets he has in his gun. So that will be his doom, as we will see. And now look, we have now cut into Halloween 2 footage. Now Dr. Loomis is now in the front yard. I think the first film, Michael Myers fell into the backyard, I think, but now it's the front yard. I could be mistaken about it. But in any event, here we have this wonderful, easy to understand kind of impression, the silhouette-like impression of Michael Myers on the grass. It looks kind of like maybe a cartoon, or maybe, the Bruce Lee film Fist of Fury, when Bruce Lee punches the guy through the wooden wall of the ice factory. It kind of looks like that, like a Looney Tunes cartoon. But that's okay. This is, Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis are like the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. So I suppose I can go with it. And of course, the neighbor, really irritated at the noise, you know, and it enters into the great theme. I love that. You don't know what death is. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a bad Dr. Loomis impression. I apologize. But yes, I've been trick or treated to death tonight. You don't know what death is. And it goes into the theme. This is one of the great introductions to the musical theme and the title sequence in any film, I think. What a great line from Dr. Loomis. And it goes into the synthesizer score of Halloween 2, one of my favorite scores. I'll get to that in a minute before I forget. The neighbor. So he says, I've been trick or treated to death tonight. And Dr. Loomis says, you don't know what death is, as he runs away. You know, part of his upper body is doing one thing and his lower body is doing it. I love Dr. Loomis's run, by the way. But anyway, that neighbor, he says, Dr. Loomis says, you don't know what death is. I'd like to think maybe in an alternate universe, the neighbor actually could reply back and say, actually, you know what? I actually know a little bit about death. Maybe he works as a mortician or works in the morgue or something. It's actually my job. I deal a lot with dead bodies and cadavers. Actually, I know a lot about death. I'd like to think that maybe in an alternate universe, that neighbor would have had a comeback, a pithy comeback to Dr. Loomis as he ran off there. But anyway, now we go into the great title sequence. Lance Guest's name is on the screen there as we speak, and of course, this is a repeat of the Pamela Susan Shoop, of course, and we have the repeat of the iconic titles from the first film, Halloween, with the jack-o'-lantern on one side and the credits on the other, and the music. Of course, this is the music, the John Carpenter thing, but it's redone in a sort of synthesizer score. I should point out, I love the synthesizer score of Halloween 2. I love this soundtrack. I think of all the Halloween films, this is my favorite Halloween film soundtrack, Halloween 2 soundtrack. I love this. I listen to the soundtrack very frequently. Even to this day, I listen to it quite regularly. It really goes well with working out and exercise, like jogging or maybe doing weights. If you're on the bench press and you're listening to the Halloween 2 theme, it really goes far in motivating you to go that one extra rep on the bench press, dun, 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 one more rep there. But anyway, I should point out to this jack-o'-lantern. The jack-o'-lantern in Halloween 2 credits looks really friendly and really happy, looks kind of jolly. I think of all the jack-o'-lanterns in all the series films, like the David Gordon Green films and the first Halloween film, they look really sinister. But Halloween 2's jack-o'-lantern look really happy. Of course, until it gets split open like this towards the latter half of the sequence here, and it reveals the evil-looking skull with the kind of the blackened teeth. The blackened teeth, maybe it's a result of smoking. I don't know, but the nose part. Although the nose looks like an oblong shaped heart that's just switched upside down. So there's actually maybe some hidden images of love and joy in this jack-o'-lantern, even though it's meant to suggest death and foreboding. But in any event, yes. We then zoom into the eye socket area here, as we reminded that this is directed by Rick Rosenthal, and going into the great meshing, amorphous nature of the synthesized score. I really love this score and the organ. I forgot to mention in that opening sequence song there, I think there's a bit towards the end where the organ really kicks in, or the organ sounding sound really kicks in, which I love it. It's very apocalyptic sounding. Oh, I love this score very much. Again, great workout music. You should try to listen to this score if you're jogging, if you're joggers, if you're runners out there. Give it a try. It might do wonders for one's workout. It certainly does wonders for my workout. I certainly need it. I need all the motivation I can get. Exercise is hard. All right, and we've got the POV shots. Now, I have a friend named Tanner who has a great Loomis impression. I shot him 6 times. I can't do it. Although there's going to be a line towards the end of the film where where he's gonna, before the hospital explodes, and he says to Laurie Strode, "God, get out now." That's the best Loomis impression I could muster. Get out now. But oh well. I wish I could do a better Donald Pleasance Dr. Loomis impression, but it just wasn't meant to be, I suppose. And now we've got the POV shot, and we've got this elderly couple, and making of sandwiches here. And another evil-looking jack. And now look at that jack-o'-lantern. That is an evil-looking jack-o'-lantern. The title sequence jack-o'-lanterns look so friendly and happy. Compared to that, looks really evil. And here he's sleeping in front of Night of the Living Dead, George A. Romero. Again, the play on the sort of the horror film on TV. We saw that in the first Halloween film with I think The Thing, and then here we have Night of the Living Dead. This film, Night of the Living Dead, will actually come up later in Halloween too. And we've got the POV shot, the picking up of the knife, which is very much like the POV shot at the beginning of Halloween with Michael Myers picking up the knife here, even out of focus moment there, which I really enjoy. It's a nice touch. And of course, foreground, background, it's a great touch there. The cinematography is so classic here. And yes, of course, now Michael Myers is rearmed with a long sort of sandwich knife and with the blood to boot. And she's really into the movie here. She just can't take her eyes off of the TV there. She's really into Night of the... Good for her. I'm also a big fan of George A. Romero, Night of the Living Dead, so I can understand her feeling. But here, she notices the blood on the cutting board here, and also slightly smeared in the sandwich she's about to make. Thank goodness she noticed the blood. Otherwise, I would hate to think what would have happened had she not noticed the blood and she just continued to make the sandwich, not noticing that it was already bloodied by Michael Myers there. And I'd hate to think what would happen if they actually gone and eaten the sandwich with all the blood in there. Ugh. If I went to a restaurant, or if I went to like a Subway sandwich place or something, and ordered a sandwich, maybe a sub sandwich, and I was about to eat, and I found Michael Myers' blood on the sandwich. I think I don't know, I barf or something. Thank goodness she caught it in time. And we have more of the neighbor here. So Michael Myers is just here. Halloween 2 has a lot of random acts of violence, we'll see. Although we also understand that there's actually a familial connection between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, which will explain why he's so intent on killing Laurie Strode. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But despite the sort of laser-focused mission of Michael Myers, he still is on a wide killing spree. And in fact, there's more killing here in this film than we did see in terms of the number of victims in the first film. So it's quite widespread. And so we see this young woman on the screen here on the telephone to be yet another one of Michael Myers' victims. Now, we wonder why Michael Myers makes the effort to do this. But maybe it's due to the fact that he's frustrated. One of the would-be victims of Michael Myers, being Laurie Strode, just escaped his clutches just a few moments prior. So maybe he's got this pent-up frustration. And her name is Alice, as we hear from the phone. Yeah, I remember I saw this as a kid. This scene scared me so much. I'd have my fingers in my ears and just close my eyes, just waiting for the jump scare. And just waiting for it. And now it just appears here with that really weird musical sting, and we've got the close-up of her face as her head is pulled back, and then the weird sound of the stabbing, and then the blood spray on her face there. Although we don't see the actual, say, violence damage occur. We hear it, and we see the motion of the hand, and we see the blood splatter, of course. And of course, a lot is left to our imagination, I think, very potently so. So a lot of the violence is suggested, I think, very effectively. But just to keep note of that, we see a lot on screen, a lot of on-screen violence, more so than the first film, arguably. But there's still stuff that's hidden from us to leave room for the imagination, so to speak. I think both of ways are quite effective in this film, Halloween 2. Incidentally, just to talk about that sequence with the young woman, I think her name is Alice, the character Alice. We see the blood splatter on her face, and it's a really violent scene, of course. But also, when I saw this as very young and then growing up, it also reminded me too of spaghetti sauce. Eating spaghetti, and you're eating pasta with spaghetti sauce, and maybe it accidentally dribbles down your shirt or something, or maybe you accidentally smack your fork into the plate and it just by accident just splatters all over you. It reminds me kind of like that. So it reminds me, it's a very spaghetti sauce like death. And in fact, we'll see a lot of spaghetti sauce and pizza deaths in this film Halloween 2. A lot. And I think there's a sequence where Bud is talking about maybe Italian food or pizza or something. So, speaking of Bud, one of the unsung heroes of this film, the Bud Jimmy combo. But anyway, and also as I was talking, of course, we see the on the stretcher being rolled out, Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, again the one of the stars of this film, the lead, of course, Laurie Strode being a key iconic character. Of course, a lot has been said about her hair. In this film, it's very evidently different hairstyle than Laurie Strode in the first Halloween. It's not her fault in terms of the hair, but it's just very noticeable. Hair is very important in terms of continuity. I think Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan Kenobi, sometimes his hair looks one way and suddenly it looks another way. It's very jarring, actually. But it has a jarring... It's not Jamie Lee Curtis's fault, of course, here, but I think she does the best she can with the hair. Incidentally, there's a scene later on where her hair actually looks like it reminds me of a jack-o'-lantern. Which I think is really effective. But anyway, and this kid with the bloody mouth, the implication being he bit into a razor blade or something in some horrific accident. Really, really gross stuff. Although, note that the mom doesn't seem so overly agitated. She's like, okay, Icky, come on, let's go. She doesn't seem overly panicked. That could be a sign of being a really calm and really in control mom. Or it could be someone who maybe should have a little bit more caring. If I were a parent and my kid bit into a razor blade in a can, I'd be like furious. I'd be so panicked. I'd be like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So relatively speaking, she's quite calm. But that's a pretty horrific scene there in terms of the little pirate outfit boy and the bloodied mouth. That's really gross. That's a really gross detail. And that towel, too. You'll see later that huge towel that he's got holding there. It's probably stuffed with ice cubes or something, but it's really huge. But in any event, now we have the introduction of Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, HMH. And this is one of the great moments, or this is one of the great strengths of Halloween 2, the setting of this film in the hospital. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later. But this is, I think, one of the reasons why this film is so great. The selection of the hospital as the setting for this is so perfect. It's suggestive of bloodletting, of injections, of needles, of cutting, sutures, surgery. It's clean. There's an austere section, or there's this austere sensibility about it, and there's these empty hallways and veneer and the like. So, and there are all these rooms as well and levels. So it's a perfect setting. It's a pretty big hospital too, I think. And if you imagine Haddonfield being a slightly small town, it's interesting that a relatively speaking small town has a huge hospital. But it's definitely within the realm of possibility. There we go. And Dr. Mixter too. There's a sense of him being slightly drunk or out of it. And of course we have here. The introduction of all the characters that we will meet. I think there's Dr. Mixter, Zal's, Jill, Janet. I think we'll meet some others. I mean, we've already met Bud, and we'll hear more from Jimmy, the great Lance Guest as Jimmy, and the like. So again, this is a film with a cast of characters. What I really like too is that the fact that we have so many new characters introduced, and with all the new characters, it's possible that the characterizations might get lost in sort of the weeds of the overpresence of too many characters from a maybe critical perspective. But I don't feel that way. I think all the characters, all the new characters, there's just enough. Each is given their own screen time in a manner of speaking, so we learn enough about who they are in a way that we still know them. So I really appreciate that. I think it handles the introduction of new characters really well. So it's great, even though they might have, relatively speaking, limited screen time. And of course we have Sheriff Brackett, and yes, the gun. Here, Sheriff Brackett, good for him, is just screaming at Loomis, just put the gun away. We will find later, the more we know Dr. Loomis, the more we realize that Dr. Loomis is pretty cavalier when it comes to his handling of firearms. Really, actually, he's quite out of control in some places. Okay, here here's a great example. He's gonna just chase after this guy who looks kind of like Michael Myers with the mask. We'll find out it's not him. But look, he's got his gun out. He's just running around. Again, I love Donald Pleasance's like run there. It's like his upper body's doing one thing, and his lower body's doing something else. It's great. It's great body language. And look, he's about to shoot this kid. This guy, I guess he doesn't know, but then this is what happens. This guy gets hit by a car and just dies in this fireball. And look at this. Look at this here. That's a huge fire. You wonder what caused the fireball to happen. Was there this can of gasoline there? I'm not sure, but and look, he just got hit by a car. You'd think that they try to still save him. There's still a chance to save him, I think, but they're just standing there, just letting this guy burn to death. It's a really quite a stunning sequence. Really, really shocking, actually. And they're just burning. It's quite shocking. It's even more shocking when you realize later who this is. This isn't Michael Myers, but this is Ben Tramer. And look at this. They're not gonna save the kid, but when they find out about Annie, they just run off to some separate location. What about this poor kid who's just been hit by a car and is burning to death? I don't know. But anyway, of course, for Sheriff Brackett, of course, Annie is his daughter, so of course he's very concerned about that. So he's off somewhere else. Okay, here's the mom with the pirate kid, and they're gonna play some games tonight at home. So that's right. I wonder what games they're gonna play at home. Is it gonna be like board games, like Monopoly, or maybe did they have Atari back? I'm not sure. But, and then have more of the establishment of the hospital location, which I think is so great. The hallways and oh, here we have Jimmy, Landscape's Jimmy, and his walk. I love his walk, his sort of his motion when he's walking. This is going to come in to play a little bit later when we understand what happens to Jimmy. It might have something to do with his balance control of his body and the leg, or it might have something to do with his shoes and slippery surfaces. But in any event, here Jimmy is coming in. And oh, what do we have here? About a little bit of hand touching action from Jimmy. Oh my goodness! And she's supposed to be asleep. She's a patient in the hospital, but oh gosh, just a little bit of hand touching action there. And so could this be the start of some kind of blossoming romance between Jimmy and Laurie? I'm not sure. It seems like the stage is being set for that. But if you remember from the first film, Laurie was into Ben Tramer. So it would have been interesting had Ben Tramer survived. It would have been interesting to have had an alternate universe where you could have had a love triangle, Ben Tramer and Jimmy fighting over Laurie. It would have been interesting. Although when we get to know Jimmy more and more, we realize that perhaps Laurie, if they had gone on dates, maybe Laurie would have dumped Jimmy eventually because Jimmy seems to be a little bit. Maybe it might be difficult for him to walk around. He might slip up. Maybe if they go out, if Jimmy asks Laurie out on a date, and maybe he takes her to a restaurant. Maybe during the meal he gets up and he walks towards the restaurant, but he slips and falls. Embarrassing everyone, embarrassing Laurie. He kind of drives her home, but he trips and he hits his head on the horn there. So maybe maybe Laurie might have dumped him. Yeah. It's interesting to consider what if Jimmy asked Laurie out on a date. Anyway, all right, here we have, yes, Sheriff Brackett, of course, hearing the news earlier from and Sheriff Brackett and Deputy Hunt hearing the news, of course, of what happened to Annie, and we have the really horrific reveal of Annie. Nancy Loomis is Annie here from the first film. We understood that she got killed in the car, right, with the throat slashing. We didn't see the actual impact of the blade in the first film, but of course it's really horrific. But here we see the aftermath. It's really quite grisly, with the blood over the neck, which is a scary sequence. Although again, I'm reminded too. It on the one hand it's scary, but also it reminds me of spaghetti sauce. If you're eating a spaghetti meal and it accidentally dribbles over your neck. Yeah, it's kind of looks like that kind of looks like what might happen if you're overcome with spaghetti sauce at a spaghetti meal and just spills all over you. So again, Halloween 2, it's also the spaghetti sauce of the Halloween films. Yes, and here we have the sort of the replacement. Sheriff Brackett is out of the picture, but now Deputy Hunt is going to take the place of the position of authority figure in this film. Uh, it's an interesting dynamic between Deputy Hunt and Dr. Loomis here. It's really actually I really like this dynamic. I like their relationship, and in fact, it'll come up later in terms of Deputy Hunt's lighter. I think it's like a yellow Bic lighter or something. I love that little detail. We'll get to that when we get to that. But perhaps Deputy Hunt's sole purpose in this is to introduce the lighter into the plot so that Dr. Loomis will get the lighter and have it in his pocket just in time to blow up the hospital. Look at this. Okay, so now he's got the idea of needing to examine that body of the person who got killed in that horrific fireball traffic accident. We're going to find out later that Ben Tramer left a party at around 10 or a little bit after 10, and then a little bit later it'll be a little bit after 11. So about an hour or so will have passed since this boy who got killed in the fireball traffic accident was killed, and then when he's now being examined, or he's soon to be examined by the dentist. I'll get to that later, but I think his body should still be smoldering. I mean, it's quite a non-smoldering body for someone who's just been killed like 40 minutes prior. But in any event, yes, Eddie Lee. Eddie Lee's in Russellville. That's why, right? Gosh. Nurse Karen. Yes, Nurse Karen. My goodness. See? And she's going to be late. And perhaps it's her being late that will allow Michael Myers to enter into the hospital, because it's that timing that will make the security guard press the button to open the door. So it's kind of unfortunate timing, of course, but it's and that car looks like Christine. That's really cool. And here we have the hat wearing guy with the radio. I always thought when I saw Halloween 5 many years later, there's a similar character who's wearing a hat, or not a similar looking character was wearing a hat. And he's I always thought that a character who wears a hat in Halloween 5 was this, it's probably the same character we saw in Halloween 2 who wears the hat and listens to the radio. But that's how my young mind was thinking when I saw Halloween 5 as a kid. And here we have Michael Myers hearing on the radio that the victim has now been taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital. So now he's on the hunt once again. But note too that he passed all the cars. There was the white car that he'd get into. There's the Datsun truck that he'd get into. He decided, no. I'm not going to break in any of these cars and drive there. I'm going to walk it. I'm going to pump my legs. I'm going to walk it. This will be good exercise. Good for Michael, trying to get in some little extra exercise here with the convenience sign, Haddonfield Memorial Hospital there. I love that sign, by the way, just to be sure that you're absolutely clear where you are. And of course, after Karen dropped off her friend, because Eddie Lee is in Russellville, now she's back, and she's late, and it's the exact timing that Michael was there. So Michael's already there, as you'll see from the reflection in the side mirror. And you'll see here the mask is all roughed up. It's really roughed up. I mean, this is very William Shatner looking angle of the mask. Although the hair is rough, that's a bad hair day on Michael Myers there. That's how my hair looks every time I wake up in the morning.